Okay. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's meeting. Notice is hereby given that in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, the laws of 1975, notice of this meeting has been sent to all school offices, officially designated newspapers, filed with the Township Clerk, and posted in the Board of Education office 48 hours in advance of this meeting. Roll call, please.
Certainly. Mrs. Berkowitz? Here. Mrs. Pintarelli?
Here.
Mrs. Rothenberg?
Here.
Mrs. Sanande?
Here.
Mr. White?
Here.
And Mr. Rossini.
Here. Okay, flag salute. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. All right, the board president's report. Tonight, I just want to mention a few things. First off, I heard by all accounts that the Holdren musical, Mary Poppins, was an incredible success. Very happy that we're doing such ordinary things that seem extraordinary, last year, which is absolutely terrific. Congratulations to the students, faculty, and whoever helped put on this very successful show. The second thing I want to mention is last week we celebrated Teacher Appreciation Week. I also heard that the PTA did a terrific job of helping to honor the teachers who've, again, gone through a lot, especially these last couple of years. So it's nice that we had the opportunity to show them the deference and respect and appreciation from last week. And also tomorrow is National School Nurses Day. Another opportunity to show appreciation for a group that's really worked very hard, especially over the last 2 years, trying to stay on top of everything that's been going on and the regulations and gathering resources. So again, Nurses Appreciation Week, Day, just another terrific opportunity to recognize these people. And then finally, we'll get to it later on in the agenda, but there's some retirements that are worth noting. Apart from that, I have nothing else. Okay, we're going to move to the committee reports. Buildings and Grounds, Mr. Schlereth isn't here, but is there anything to discuss?
Certainly. I'll bring the board up to date. For anyone who's driven by Holdren, if you're out in the back on the back field, you notice that we are in full construction mode. The contractor has completed the layout and excavation for the footings. They have substantially completed the masonry foundation. This was last week. They've gotten their inspections to the township, so we're waiting on that. They've completed concrete pour of the remaining footings in the 6th grade wing. This week, they are continuing the block foundation walls at the 6th and the 7th grade wings. They're continuing the new underground site drainage and inlet installation and some electrical work. That's at Holdren. Here, we may be hearing it soon. We are in the midst of demoing 4 classrooms, 35, 36, 37, and 38, and they are saw cutting the concrete floors as we speak. Last week, they demoed those classrooms, and this week they're looking to mark out the plumbing and to continue with the submittals and concentrating on the long lead time equipment. And then at Woodside, we had a construction meeting last week, and we invited the roofer so that there's coordination between the rooftop HVAC equipment and the rooftop. So that is progressing because that work will start after the school year ends. And does anybody have any questions? Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Communications and policies, Mrs. Sanande.
No updates at this time.
Okay, curriculum and technology, Mrs. Rothenberg.
Yes, we just met. We had an extended meeting because there is so much going on in the district. So, just to briefly give an overview for technology, Mr. O'Gara presented to us. He talked to us about all the initiatives going on this year and next, with a focus on cybersecurity, training for the staff, increasing the one-to-one laptop program, among many other things. So, thank you to him and his staff. They're doing a great job. And then for curriculum, Ms. Dowling updated us on the busy year that's happened and that's to come, implementing or the continuation of big ideas, Link It, going even more in depth, the ruler program, continuing working with West Bergen Health, the new electives that were offered at Holdrum this year, including the civics class, which apparently now is a new standard and is going to be offered to or required for everyone next year in the middle school. And they were given a lot of state mandates to and had to update the curriculum in almost all subject areas, and they're doing a great job, and they'll continue to be even providing more integration with the Link It program. And I'm sure Kim will be presenting, or Ms. Dowling will be presenting on that, but her and her staff have worked really hard with Ms. Signori to implement all this curriculum and with tight timelines, so thank you to them.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. Finance, Mrs. Pintarelli.
Nothing at this time.
Okay, negotiations. I have nothing to report at this time. And again, back to Mrs. Pintarelli for personnel.
Nothing at this time.
Okay. Just please take note, the committee meeting schedule, which is in the agenda going forward. And now we're going to move to public comments on agenda items only. Again, this is on agenda items only. The Rivervale Board of Education is committed to encouraging the citizens of Rivervale and employees of the Rivervale School District to speak directly to board trustees. In order to facilitate this communication, residents and employees are requested, 1, to sign in before speaking, 2, to maintain an appropriate sense of decorum, and 3, to limit their remarks to no more than 5 minutes. The board will also take under advisement the written comments and opinions of non-residents that are submitted to the board secretary. Being mindful of its responsibility to maintain the orderly conduct of meetings, the board retains the right to rule on such matters as the speaker's right to address the board, as well as the appropriateness of the subject being presented. The board's decision in such matters is final. The board also reminds all members of the public that while it subscribes without reservation to the principle of keeping the community informed, by policy and law, it cannot allow public discussion of personnel matters, nor can trustees comment on any current or pending litigation. If a matter concerning an employee of the Rivervale Public Schools is of interest or concern to a resident, the matter should be referred to the responsible building principal or the superintendent of schools by telephone, letter, or email. The meeting is opened to public comments on agenda items only at approximately 8:15 p.m. I'm sorry, 7:15 p.m. And seeing no one wants to make a comment, I will close it to public comments at 8:16 p.m., just to be consistent, but it's really 7:16 p.m. Okay. Now we're going to move on to the superintendent's report. Mrs. Signori.
All right, thank you. Good evening, everybody. Okay, at last month's Board of Ed meeting, I mentioned that we would provide our families with a list of all the state-mandated health standards that are new and are expected to be implemented in September. Happy to say that we are still on track to get this information out to our families, and hopefully early June. And then we expect the full curriculum to be completed over the summer, and we will make sure we post that on our website. So just make sure that you're on the lookout for a letter that will come from us in June. What we're planning on doing is sending home per grade level all the standards so that parents can take a chance to look through that all, and we're making it as simple as we can. All they have to do is sort of click which standard that they may not want their child to partake in and get that back to us. It'll be through like a Google form. This month we have several grade levels taking the New Jersey Student Learning Assessment, or better known as the NJSLA. This test has not been administered since 2019. So we are eager to see how the state will measure student achievement and student growth. Typically they compare to the year before, but we don't know how they will do that since it hasn't been done since 2019. So we'll wait and see what that looks like. We typically get those results sometime over the summer, and then we send that information to parents as well. You'll get all your student results, or your child's results, I should say, and then we also will present out it to the public early next year. And finally, I could not believe this, but I counted today. We have only about 29 days left before summer vacation, and we are jam-packed with the return of lots of events. As our president just said, we had the Holdrum musical. We've got all of our concerts returning, art shows returning, a lot of the activities that students love, like field day and trips coming up. So we're excited for that. So just be sure to check your school newsletters or your school calendars, and you can see when all those exciting events are taking place. Thanks so much, and have a great evening.
Okay, thank you. And let's move on to the board secretary's report, please.
Thank you. The only thing I have to report this evening is that we finally did have our CUSAC walkthrough and finance monitoring. Thank you to everyone involved, Mr. Peterson, Mr. Wren, the Roberge staff, custodians. The county business official was most impressed with our building, so it was a really great feeling to walk through with him and have our kids be so excited, and teachers teaching and looking down at the floors, and he really just looked around and said, wow, this is really great. So it was a good feeling. So we are expecting to hear our results for all components of CUSAC by June.
Okay, that's great. And
So-
that's pre-referendum. Imagine what'll happen post-referendum.
Correct.
So, terrific.
Correct. Thank you.
So let's move on to resolutions R1 through R14. Can I have a motion, please, for R1 through R14?
I'll make a motion for R1 through R14.
Okay, second?
I'll second.
Okay. Discussion. By the way, I'm just going to note that they're called reorganization resolutions, which is just things that we have to do every year to ensure that there's proper personnel assigned to certain roles throughout the district and other things. Because it's unusual for something to be called.
I have a question,
necessarily are.
and frankly, I don't quite understand. January, I understand. Why do we do this in May? Why is there a reorganization in May? Just, maybe some people don't understand that. It's a,
Yeah, you can take it.
I was looking at- So this is all for the following school year coming up. So that's typically at the end of this school year, so that everything's set in place, because we kind of go by July 1st. So that's why. And technically, we could do it in June. You're welcome.
Okay. All right. Any other comments or discussion with regard to these resolutions, R1 through R14? Okay. All right, so we'll take a roll call vote, please.
Certainly, Mrs. Berkowitz,
Yes.
Mrs. Pintarelli,
Yes.
Mrs. Rothenberg,
Yes.
Mrs. Sanande,
Yes.
Mr. White,
yes.
and Mr. Rossini.
Yes. Moving on to general resolutions, G1 through G4. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to move.
Okay. Second.
Second.
Discussion. Okay, just noting that G3 again is a resolution discussing Teacher Appreciation Week and again thanking the teachers for all their hard work. Okay, any other comments or discussion? No, roll call, please.
Certainly, Mrs. Berkowitz,
Yes.
Mrs. Pintarelli,
Yes.
Mrs. Rothenberg,
Yes.
Mrs. Sanande,
Yes, but I'll abstain from G2.
certainly, Mr. White,
Yes.
and Mr. Rossini.
Yes. Okay. Okay, now we're going to move on to, sorry, I'm lost my spot here. Business resolutions, resolutions B1 through B26. Is there someone, a motion to move it?
I'll move it.
And second?
I'll second.
Okay. And discussion, comments? Okay. Okay, anything? Anybody? No? Okay, roll call vote, please.
Certainly. Mrs. Berkowitz?
I'm going to abstain from B26B and B26C, and yes.
Thank you. Mrs. Pintarelli?
Yes, and I'll abstain from B26D.
Thank you. Mrs. Rothenberg?
Yes, I'll abstain from B26F.
Thank you. Mrs. Anande?
Yes, but I'll abstain from B17 and B26H.
Thank you. Mr. White?
Yes.
Mr. Rossini?
And yes, with the abstention for 26E.
Okay.
Okay, moving on to the personnel resolutions. May I have a motion to move P1 through P24 of the personnel resolutions?
I'll
So-
move. Oop, Go ahead. So moved.
And second?
I'll second.
Okay. Looking at the personnel resolutions, one of them in this group is, I just wanted to comment on Mrs. Schatz because my children, had her. I sat in her room, I think, at one point, cutting out turkeys for Thanksgiving. A lot of fond memories of Mrs. Schatz and all the work that she did throughout these years. So I wanted to make sure that I recognized that and the energy and the diligence she's had throughout her career, which is always really very appreciated. Yeah. Okay. Okay, anything else? No, okay. Roll call, please.
Certainly. Mrs. Berkowitz?
Yes.
Mrs. Pintarelli?
Yes.
Mrs. Rothenberg?
Yes.
Mrs. Sanande?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
And Mr. Rossini?
Yes. Okay, and now with regard to P25, is there a motion?
I'll move P25.
A second?
I'll second.
Okay, and again, this is another which has been separated out for Mr. Peterson, who's retiring. And Mr. Peterson's work, I've sat in so many Buildings and Grounds Committee meetings. He knows the school buildings backwards and forwards. He's a historian of the buildings, and it's incredibly helpful, the knowledge he has. And it'll make our lives a little bit more difficult, especially with all the construction we're doing, but hopefully we'll get a lot of it done with him still here, or at least his comments, so we can move forward. Anything else from anybody?
I just echo your sentiments. I think our buildings are well taken care of when there's storms, cleaned and, quickly. So we'll miss him and we wish him well in retirement.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. You mentioned that the buildings being well-maintained and him showing up for snowstorms and everything else. I mean, I didn't even think of that because it's just so taken for granted that Ken did these things. So it's very difficult to see him go.
So I just wanted to wish Mr. Peterson a happy retirement and congratulate him and say that it's really been a true honor and privilege to work with him. I mean, I've been here 18 years, so he was here when I started, and in my time working with him, I have to say he was always dependable. He always provided help. Never a question. He always had insight. And I wanted to praise him for his outstanding leadership. His dedication goes beyond the countless contributions that he's provided the students and the community and the staff, plus the township. He has a very good working relationship with the township. And he's really made a profoundly positive impact on thousands. When you think about, he's been here 21 years, thousands of students, staff, and community members. And last but not least, I really want to thank his family, because all the time that he has spent here, he's been away from his family. I know he's missed family events, so I have to really thank them as well, and just wish him all the light that life has to offer, and much health and happiness in his retirement. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. That was nice.
And I just want to echo what Ms. Ippolito said. It will definitely be very large shoes to fill. I tried to convince Mr. Peterson to stay until I was done, and he said there's no way he's putting that many more years in. But at least I did get 7 years of working with him, and he was outstanding. So he will be missed, and I wish him well.
Terrific. Okay. Yeah. Thanks for such nice comments. So we'll take a roll call vote.
Yes.
Mrs. Pintarelli,
Yes.
Mrs. Rothenberg,
Yes.
Mrs. Sanande,
Yes.
Mr. White,
Yes.
and Mr. Rossini.
Yes. Okay. Now we're up to public comments on general items. Again, the Rivervale Board of Education is committed to encouraging the citizens of Rivervale and employees of the Rivervale School District to speak directly to board trustees. In order to facilitate this communication, residents and employees are requested, 1, to sign in before speaking, 2, to maintain an appropriate sense of decorum, and 3, to limit their remarks to no more than 5 minutes. The board will also take under advisement the written comments and opinions of non-residents that are submitted to the board secretary. Being mindful of its responsibility to maintain the orderly conduct of meetings, the board retains the right to rule on such matters as the speaker's right to address the board, as well as the appropriateness of the subject being presented. The board's decision in such matters is final. The board also reminds all members of the public that while it subscribes without reservation to the principle of keeping the community informed by policy and law, it cannot allow public discussion of personnel matters, nor can trustees comment on any current or pending litigation. If a matter concerning an employee of the Rivervale Public Schools is of interest or concern to a resident, the matter should be referred to the responsible building principal or the superintendent of schools by telephone, letter, or email. With regard to public comments on general items, the meeting is open to public comments at 7:30 p.m.
Hi, everyone.
Welcome. Good evening.
Luana Lesberg, 221 Rockland Ave. I'm kind of sad to be up here speaking again on an issue that I feel should be long gone. But last week, my daughter in school walked up to me masked, with a mask that I did not provide for her, a mask that I did not give consent for her to wear. I was obviously very bothered. I'm sure you all know how I feel on the mask issue. My children don't mask in any place other than a medical facility. I don't believe in masks. I respect everyone who wears them. My children simply do not. The story that I got was that a parent had asked an administrator to give their child, who's in my daughter's class, a mask. That administrator went into my daughter's classroom, not with one single mask for the single child who requested one, but with an entire box, and then proceeded to tell the children that there are a lot of sick children in her class, and if anyone would like a mask, that she has them there. Now, Obviously, as expected, the children became fearful, and one after the other raised their hand for a mask, as did my daughter, which is expected. She's little. This is a complete violation of my parental rights. Parental rights are something that we were supposedly given back. My child was made to feel so uncomfortable and confused that she took a mask thinking that she was supposed to. She told me that she felt like she was going to get in trouble if she didn't. What happened here was the school came between my beliefs and what they wanted, and I am not okay with that. It seems to me at this point that without a legally binding document, any administrator is free to go into my daughter's classroom and coerce or bait her into doing whatever they feel is right, and that is not okay. I don't want to come up here and be accusatory, saying that this was in the intended outcome of the situation, but I'm also not an idiot. If you're going in there to give one child a mask, then bring one mask for that child, and don't make an announcement about everybody being sick. I am so uncomfortable with my children being in a district where I now no longer feel in control. Where are the lines? Where are the lines drawn? I have been so vocal. I have been up here meeting after meeting, voicing my concerns about mask issues. And I was floored to see my child walk towards me with a mask over her beautiful little face. This is confusing for her and uncomfortable for her. We don't wear masks. I don't believe that they work, and I am honestly so discouraged at this point. I want to know what I'm supposed to do to make sure that this doesn't happen again, because no one in this school is to make medical or health decisions for my child. That is my job. I am the parent. So if anyone has any suggestions for me, I'm happy to hear them. If I need to submit some kind of a document to ensure that my child will never be masked again without my concern, I'm happy to do that.
First, I'm truly sorry that happened, because obviously you are right. You have made your feelings about masking very clear, and so we don't want you or your child to ever feel that way. I think you did exactly the right thing. This incident had also been reported to me, and you did exactly what you were supposed to do. You reached out to that employee, you made your concerns and your frustration clear, and it should never happen again. I think there's somewhere in the middle of what actually happened, which I certainly would not want to get into, in a public forum, but you did exactly the right thing. You went right to that employee and you shared your concerns, and it should never happen again. No, but we are not mandating masks, so we don't want anyone to feel that anyone's going to force anyone to wear a mask. So I'm glad you reached out to that employee and that gotten taken care of. And again, that's unfortunate because we know how strongly you feel. So I'm sorry that happened.
I just want to add to that the reason we have parental choice is because it's the parent's decision, not the 7-year-old child. So no one should ever approach my child and ask her to make a health decision for herself. She's 7. She can't do that. Mm-hmm. So I think it was just wildly inappropriate for that to even take place. Mm-hmm. On another note, a lot of parents are curious to know what exactly is mandated in terms of quarantines and testing, and we're kind of wondering at this point why we're still keeping our healthy children home and not able to make the decisions for ourselves whether our kids can come to school or not when exposed.
Sure. Have you reached out to your school nurse and she can fill you in with the details of all of that?
She has told us exactly what we're supposed to do and what the school requires, but I'm asking kind of what the state is requiring. And is it our district that's requiring us to quarantine?
No, so the state requires anybody who is positive, of course, to quarantine. And the state also requires anybody who is considered a close contact under their definition to quarantine, or they can test to come so that they don't have to quarantine.
And do they have to come back masked after the negative test?
It is strongly recommended from the health department, and that's what we do. We strongly recommend.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you for your comments. Right, there's a number of people out here. Any other comments? Okay, I don't want to close prematurely. Okay, seeing that there's no one else who wants to make a comment, thank you for making comments. And I'm going to close the meeting to public comments at 7:39 p.m. And anybody have anything under old business that needs to be discussed here? New business? Okay, I know we're going to go into closed session. We're not going to take any action. We're not going to come back out. Can I have a motion to enter into closed session, please?
Move it.
And
I'll
a second?
second.
Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Always appreciate seeing people in the audience. We're going to go into closed session now, and again, thank you.